other joke was that our state flower is mildew because it rains so much.
And so you might just accidentally push yourself in the wrong direction a little bit, and then it's like, I'm going to pay for it the next day.
There's no guarantee whether we'll do it.
But I was just like chilling. I look over and I was like, oh, hello, vagina.
Keep that compass pointed, true north to what you believe.
Definitely don't go to school.
Go to rock and roll school.
That's kind of crazy, but
I don't remember this.
Me neither.
But when it comes to write lyrics, I really, it's a pain in the ass for me,
Wow, this is what I want to listen to during my whole life.
Did you really bring that up? That was a private conversation.
I hope people keep thinking that I'm really relaxed while I'm playing and do not realize when I'm playing the difficult parts of the song.
Those things are always interesting just because I'm so scattered.
Polka metal can be interesting.
Polka metal, yeah. I like it.
It's a microphone. What am I supposed to do with this? I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I know who to sue.
Yeah.
It was that being told I can't and I shouldn't made me want to do it.
And I'm really hopeful that it's not possible.
I want to be in their presence, so I conduct my life in a way that I hope that they want to be in my presence as well.
I am more than the thoughts you think. I got the universe inside of me. Let me loose, let me be. Oh, and just let me breathe. Oh, no, no, no. Breathe. Oh, no, 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 yeah.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Thursday, the 20th of May, 2021. And as always, I have a few housekeeping details to get through before we get to my interview this afternoon. And so I do have some other live streams coming up. I don't know how my schedule got so busy, but it is. So tomorrow, Friday at noon Pacific Daylight Time, I have my second version of the Director's Symposium. I have two wonderful documentary filmmakers joining me, and we're going to talk shop for about an hour and discuss their films and everything that goes into their process. And I've interviewed both of them individually before, so it's always nice bringing people together. And so that's going to be on Friday. And then Saturday at 1 p.m., where everything started, we're at the 1-year anniversary point of all this virtual business for myself, for the wonderful band Alice. So we're all getting back together virtually, and we're going to reminisce and laugh and talk and see what's going on with the band. And I know they've been working on all kinds of things that are coming up, and I know they have a tour planned for the fall and into next year. So that's all going to happen at 1 p.m. for an hour. And then they're also going to be doing a tea time on Zoom. So if you're a fan or a new fan and you want to actually interact with the members directly, you'll be able to do that right after our interview. And then Sunday, I'm quote unquote off, but off from the live streams, not off from everything else. And then I've got another interview on Monday, Tuesday. There's 2 on Thursday next week. So you kind of get the idea. If you'd like to know what's coming up with all the details, please follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. Some of that information gets migrated over to Facebook, but not all of it. So some of it's definitely exclusive to Instagram. And if you happen to be here on YouTube and this is your first time watching one of my interviews, if you could do me a huge favor and subscribe to my channel, like this video. And if you want to know what's coming up, hit the notification bell. But be aware you will be getting emails sent to your inbox about everything that I have coming up, and sometimes that's a lot. So I totally understand if you don't want that, but if you could subscribe to me, it doesn't cost you anything. It definitely helps me out for sure. And then if you're on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there on Twitch, that would be great as well. That's where I started with the Alice tour, so I always will maintain a channel on Twitch and YouTube, and then my other platform I decided not to use anymore just for my own personal reasons. But that's what's coming up, and there's a lot of things. But let's get to today's interview. My guest today is a talented singer and songwriter. Her latest soul-infused single, Breathe, just dropped last Friday, the 14th. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Julia Kahn.
Hello.
Hi, Julia. How are you? Yeah, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm busy, which is not a bad thing.
Absolutely, right? Me too. It's good busy. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be on your show.
Awesome. Yeah, again, thank you for being here. And I can't wait to talk to you about your single and your music and your kind of what got you to those points. So, but let's start off with what's right front and center. I understand that you actually had a chance to do a live performance. Was that on last Friday on the 14th, the day of the single release?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I was able to play a live show here. It's my first live show back since the beginning of the pandemic started. So it's my first show back, and yeah, I was able to do it on the release date of Breathe, kind of way to celebrate it. So yeah, it was so great. It was so much fun.
I was going to say, I mean, tell me more. The fact that you got a chance to do something live, I would love to hear more about how your show went and what you played during the set and everything else.
Yeah, it went so well. It was just crazy being on stage again, like after so long without it. But it felt so good. It felt so good to just be up there connecting with people again. I was playing with some incredible musicians here and did kind of half live, half electronic setup. And I played kind of all my songs that are out now and also some unreleased ones as well. So kind of did a mix, but yeah, I was able to do a whole original set, and it just went so well. It was great. It was with Affinity here in Nashville. They put on some great shows and events for breaking artists around here. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on coming back to the stage.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's like finally.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that that event up here. If it's going to be music or theater or ballet or opera, whatever it is, I'm just kind of chomping at the bit for that first one that I officially get to go back to. So
right. Oh my gosh, I know. And it's funny. I know, like I had played that, but I haven't even been to a live show yet since everything. So it was like that was kind of like both for me. But yeah, I feel like everyone is definitely ready. So
yeah. For sure. And so can you tell me a bit about the background of Breathe? So when did you write this? When did you record it? And then what's going on lyrically with it?
Yeah. So it's funny. There's kind of like different like stages of how I wrote this song. The lyrics themselves and the initial kind of groove I came up with a little while ago, like back in the summer. I think it was last summer. And it was when I was visiting on a trip to Chicago, I remember, and I kind of brought a small studio set up there. I was staying with my sister who lives there, and kind of came up with the lyrics and just the skeleton of the groove of the song there. But then it had been, a long while. I kind of sat with it for a long time. The pandemic started and all kinds of stuff kind of put that at a halt for a second. But then all virtually, I was able to work with Manny Park, who is also a producer and a mix and master engineer. And so we co-produced the tune from there, kind of from that skeleton of the song that I had, and just kind of built it out together, just emailing back and forth, literally is like how we kind of made it, and we'd add things and do it all that way. But yeah, and so we co-produced that together, and then I went and recorded the vocals. Not too long after that. So yeah, it kind of came together in a few different sections there. But yeah, as far as it's interesting, yeah, this song is definitely more taps a little bit more into those soulful electronic roots of mine, which I feel like I haven't fully gotten to show yet to people in some of my other songs. So yeah, so that's been fun to kind of just express that and see how people have connected to it. But yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I love what I heard, and like we were talking pre-show, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come on and talk to you about what you're doing. Is so it definitely captured my attention as soon as I heard it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was just watching a documentary for this film festival that's almost done, the Milwaukee Film Festival. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to disparage you. The Milwaukee Film Festival, which ends tonight. But it was about electronic artists being female and how it's been so difficult for the Alice in Wonderlands and artists of that type to break into that industry that's so male dominated, which is pretty much true of every genre, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, so and I've always been a really strong supporter of women in music, and you can look through my YouTube channel about all the guests that I've interviewed. So I'd like to know, like, your own personal experience. Have you encountered anything that you felt was double standard things where people are asking you questions that they wouldn't ask a male artist?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. And yeah, like you were saying, I think every woman in this industry, and honestly every industry, has probably felt some of this. Yes, it's actually something that inspired this song pretty heavily, was that feeling and being in a lot of male dominated spaces often, and kind of maybe like, I don't know, I've just had certain like opinions or thoughts and things just often being silenced or being belittled or made to, you know, you need to fit into this box, or, oh, you know, it needs to be about your looks or how it's mean, or like, you know, if you come off too sure of yourself or too strong, then they'll, you know, often women will get labeled as like difficult or something in a studio setting. So yeah, I've definitely had some experiences with that. And that's just kind of with Breathe, when I was writing that, it's just kind of all about those feelings of being made to feel small or belittled when you know you're so much more than that, you know, and when you have so much more to express. And so the song was kind of just like that, like breaking free, just kind of expressing that, like, no, like, you know, I got the universe inside of me, like I'm gonna express myself. And yeah, so that's kind of, that was definitely a big part of that, for sure.
Okay, well that's great. And what you were talking about is exactly what they're talking about in that document, and also some of my guests have been talking about too. That it could be something as simple as, did you actually write this song? They'll look at maybe the male producer, the male band member, or if you actually did, there'll be like, well, can you maybe sex up your image a bit more because you're looking too androgynous, you're looking too whatever.
Yeah.
And things that they don't ever look at a guy and say that, you know, can you take off your shirt? Can you do this? Can you do that? But with females, they seem to be doing it all the time.
Yes.
And it creates this really toxic environment for any woman to work in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, like all of those examples you mentioned, like I've experienced, and I think all the female artists have experienced that. And it's just wild. But, you know, I do think now, I think there's starting to be more of, at least, I don't know, it's hard to explain because obviously it's always been there, but it's just, I think now, I don't know, I kind of do feel this shift from the women's standpoint of just, we're not taking, you know, just like kind of trying to shift that mode for sure. And it's definitely, you know, it's a journey, but it definitely makes it hard sometimes, especially in creative environments, you know, when, yeah, they're like, oh, you produced, you don't produce, or you didn't write this, or you only did, you know, it's this, yeah, it's the constant thing. So yeah, that's definitely how Breathe came to be. That was a huge part of the inspo for that.
Okay, well, yeah, and I think you're right. I think there's more, without trying to mansplain anything, but I think there's just more.
Well, I appreciate that though.
I think there's more awareness. I think there's more artists, especially who identify as female, who they're not staying silent. They're not taking it.
Yeah.
And they really shouldn't. I'm thinking about a guest that I had earlier this week, and she was like, "Fuck that." I mean, excuse my language, but
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she was like, "Why can't I scream in this metal song? Or why can't I do this?" It's like, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't do it. And sure enough, I mean, she's got some of the gnarliest growls I've ever heard from that style of music.
Yeah.
But just hearing the kind of nonsense she's had to put up with, and again, many other artists and other people that I've never even talked to that are female, that it just kind of opens my eyes a bit more, just to remind myself that you have to understand where someone else is coming from, and then also what you're trying to project onto someone. And sometimes you're aware of it, like some of the ding dongs are, and sometimes you're not aware of it. So that's something you have to kind of figure out for yourself, so
right,
that you don't repeat the pattern.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's awesome that you're doing that, and that you take the time to discuss this. And I really appreciate that. And to be so aware, like that, you know, that help this shift happen even more. You know, it's just so much of that awareness and talking about it. So yeah. It's crazy.
it's very important, and yeah, absolutely. And that's, I don't know what's going on with the weather around here. I'm seeing like sun come through, and it got really dark all of a sudden. It's like,
I know ours has been like that lately too. I know what's going on.
I'm like, do I have a tumor or something? What's going on here? One thing that I thought was really interesting with your music was that there's absolutely this soul influence in your vocals, even in the approach to the music. And I know it sounded like you were growing up and that's what you heard in your household. So can you kind of speak to your background? So when did you first get involved with music, and what were some of those influences that were early on?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely grew up on so much soul music, all the Motown, soul, and also just all kinds of soulful music. It was just always playing in my house. And really, yeah, ever since I was before I remember, I was just so obsessed with music. Like I was so obsessed with anything that we'd be playing. Like I'd listen to the album like a million times, or be obsessed with all of the kind of like legends in those areas and like want to emulate them. And yeah, I really since I was just real little was trying to sing and emulate those artists. And yeah, it was so much soul, and also a lot of kind of a lot of that like 60s 70s era of things too. Like I also was really inspired heavily lyrically by like Stevie Nicks and a lot of female artists like that. Also some Amy Winehouse, Erykah Badu. So those kind of came in later too. But yeah, definitely it's cool that you notice the soul even in the type of music I'm making now. Because sometimes I know I'm blending so many things now. But yeah, I definitely feel like in the vocals you can still feel that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I really like that aspect of it. Not that, and I like straightforward pop as well, and indie pop things too.
Yeah.
And there's obviously some other artists out there right now that have some soul, but yeah, and I grew up when my parents were playing Motown in the house as well, so I heard all those things. And
Yeah.
I'm old fart, so I remember a lot of things like from the 70s and the 80s. And
Yes, that's the best. Yeah.
yeah, and I've been so fortunate that once I started doing this media stuff, that I got to cover Smokey Robinson twice.
Oh, love him.
Yeah, so I got to see him and hear all those classics, and the man has like, I don't know how, I don't know how he's managed to keep his voice as stellar as it is for all these years. I was just blown away by how good he sounded.
Perfect. Yeah, I was so lucky enough to see him the last year, or before the pandemic. I was able to see him back when I was home in Indianapolis. I went with my dad and my parents, and we went and saw him, and it was awesome. He sounded it sounded like no time has gone. It was wild.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also do photography when I'm at the show, so I'm in the photo pit or whatever. And the first time I saw him, I was off to like stage left and on the front of the stage, and I thought he was coming out from the other side. So I was going to try to get him walking towards the middle of the stage, and he came up right in front of me, out in front of that side. So he kind of startled me for a second.
That's awesome.
It's looking as smooth as possible, and
oh yeah, to the night. For sure.
Crowd's going wild, and obviously the consummate professional's been doing it for so long and just had the audience in the palm of his hand, knew exactly what to say and the stories to tell, and
yeah,
wow. And so yeah, again, when I heard your voice, it put me back in terms of just the vocal stuff, back into some of the Motown things. So it doesn't surprise me at all in terms of your influences.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's such a great compliment, because I mean that's really how I learned to sing. Really, I didn't come from a musical family or anything per se. I literally think I just learned just trying to sing them. So yeah.
Oh, and that kind of I have a curious mind. So did you learn, so everything that you've done pretty much self-taught then, or do you take any lessons at any point over your career?
Yeah, for the most part, pretty much self-taught. I've taken voice lessons. I started doing that a little bit later on. And yeah, when I was in high school, I think I more started to do that. But yeah, otherwise, I've kind of started to dive into production more than the last like 2 years or so. So that's kind of just been self-taught, and same with the writing and all of that. So yeah.
Wow, that's even more impressive to me then.
Thank you.
If someone had asked me, based on the music I heard and the videos that I watched and that kind of thing, that I would have guessed that you had more of a schooled background than a self-taught one. So.
Really? Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you definitely have been working hard and have an aptitude for what you're doing. Keep at it.
Thank you so much. Wow, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're trying over here. Yeah, it's been fun though. Like I think, later on, I grew up with soul. Like that was definitely so much my roots, and then got into. I mean, now I listen to absolutely everything, but I've gone through so many different explorations of different types of music. And one later on was definitely some electronic music too. And so all my friends go to a lot of the shows, and I just loved something about it that just felt really cool. And so that was kind of something that was fun for me to explore, of kind of blending some of that soul that I have and some of these other elements with kind of some of this electronic, chops in there, and kind of similar to those like sounding elements was something that also inspired me in a totally different way. So it's been really fun to kind of dive into production and learn about that whole world too, because it's just fascinating to me. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I would say you're doing more than trying. You're succeeding.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and so with I was looking through something, and was it just kind of pure coincidence that the video for Fly Away came out on the 15th of May, 2019, almost exact date to when Breathe came out?
That's a total coincidence. Yes,
Oh,
I didn't even realize that. So,
okay.
Yeah, usually, yeah, I like to plant little things there, but no, that one was a coincidence for sure. But it's
Okay.
cool how that kind of turned out that way, from where I was then and here. It's kind of a cool measure of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you always thought that you wanted to explore your music as a solo artist? Was there ever a time you thought about, like, being more part of a band situation?
Yeah, so I was part of a band when I was in high school. I was in a band with 3 awesome guys I'm still such great friends with today. Yeah, we were in kind of like a bluesy, like soulful alt band together. And yeah, we started that. We like took this, we were just basically, it was like an extracurricular class. Like you could do whatever you wanted, but we all happened to be taking the same thing. But so they just had their instruments and we'd go in the music room and just kind of start doing stuff together. And yeah, like literally in this little like instrument closet. And so we kind of just formed our band that way. But yeah, I sang with them for a while throughout the second half of high school and then towards just the very beginning of college as well. So yeah, so I did that for a while and then and it was so much fun and I feel like I learned so much through all of that. And we would play I went to school in Bloomington. We played Bluebird all the time and it was a great time. But yeah, there was definitely just a time when I just feel like creatively there was just more, just certain, like a different lane of things I just found myself yearning to try. And I think same with them in different, in their different sounds that they were wanting to explore as well. And yeah, I started writing much more then and kind of starting to write and learn a little bit more about production at that point. And yeah, I decided to kind of go solo and go on this path just by myself. And yeah, kind of how it stemmed from that.
Okay, well, yeah, it sounds like you've been around and involved with music for quite a few years then.
Yes,
okay.
definitely.
And I'm also kind of curious about as we were talking about your soul background and influences. Do you have, and maybe I missed it, but do you have any kind of songs either in your catalog or planning to do one that is like a throwback to like the 60s Motown, like a straight soul song that's maybe not as modern influenced?
I had in my old, like from a few years ago, I had done some stuff like that. And I've also incorporated some of those in some of my live sets as well. But it's been a while though since I've kind of visited those, or I haven't created just a full soul tune recently. So yeah, the last time I did was definitely kind of in my back catalog there, but I loved it. I would love to bring that back in for sure. But yeah, most of the sets I've been doing around here have been more originals. So that's kind of been these ones I've been working on. But definitely I have been writing some though that I think it comes out a bit more. There's still definitely some of the electronic elements in there, but I definitely think some of these new ones I've been writing, even just vocally, you can definitely hear a lot of that soul come through more.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I have a random mind.
No, I love it. No, yeah, it's great.
And so what prompted your move from back in Indiana down to Nashville?
Yeah, so I moved here like literally right at the beginning of the pandemic started. Like I came here, yeah, but I'd been here going back and forth between Indiana and here a lot, and then was here for a few months about 2 years ago working on a project. That's where I made Fly Away and Light On and all of that. But then I moved back home for a little bit, and then decided to move back in May. Yeah, around last year. But just decided, you know, I was coming here like every month, like so often anyways. And I knew I was gonna, I was planning to relocate to like a music city coming up. And it just was so, I'd already kind of started to establish, working with some great people here and just loving the vibe. And one of my best friends who works, she also works in the music industry, was moving here as well. And so I decided to be like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm just gonna move here, keep working with these awesome people that I've met, and keep working on these new projects. And yeah, it's been great so far.
Okay, well, yeah, that based on what you just said, that makes perfect sense, especially to going to a music city like Nashville. I mean,
yeah.
And you already had roots. Some roots were starting to develop there from having been there before. And like you said, you have a really good friend who's going to be moving down there too. So everything kind of lined up, really.
Yes, it did. It was weird. It just like lined up perfectly. So just naturally, I was like, okay, I got to do it.
I think one thing that's really also really interesting about your music is that, and it doesn't surprise me now that I'm talking with you, is that I think it could kind of go in all kinds of different directions. You don't really seem stuck like, well, this is the path I want to be on, so that means I need to kind of do this. It kind of be like, well, no, if you're feeling it organically to, I don't know, maybe move towards a jazz direction, I could see you doing it.
Yeah.
I think your music's kind of like, it's open enough to be able to do that, because some people's isn't. It's really kind of very specific, and if they took a left turn like that, the fans might be like, what happened?
Yeah.
But in your case, I think there's enough room for that kind of experimentation that you could really do it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that take on that. Yeah, because I definitely feel, like I feel like my music encompasses a lot of different vibes and sounds, and I try to write just as authentically as I can to the emotions that I'm feeling, and the story that I'm trying to tell. And, and it's like just kind of what comes out is like what I feel is most authentic. And, but yeah, I definitely feel like it could definitely go a lot of different ways. And I think that's just part of who I am too. I think there's just a lot of different parts kind of that make up who I am as an artist and a soul. So for me to just like pin it into one box or lane just doesn't feel authentic to me. So yeah, it's kind of, and I definitely think there's, you could definitely feel that string connecting between all of them. That's definitely a vibe, but it's like, a big thing for me is like we feel all these different emotions, right? And so like as my music, it's the same. It's like, one day I'm feeling like Breathe, where it's like more upbeat, like Empowered Expressed, and then one day otherwise I'm feeling more like, okay, wanting to get more deep and feel it deeply, or letting the light in, stuff like that. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because I know sometimes they're always also trying to pin you into like a certain lane, and so that's sometimes I'm like, it's crazy. But
yeah, I think that's partially why your music resonates with me, and also what you've been saying during this interview is because with what I do, I'm not in one lane. I'm in the music lane, then I'm over in the musical lane, then I'm in the theater lane, the opera lane, and the film lane, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, which is
well, thank you. It's during that switch around, I shouldn't say switch, but the addition to in 2018, there's definitely some people that were questioning why I was moving away from music and starting to cover these other areas. And it was like, I'm not moving away from it, I'm just adding to it.
Right? Yeah, you're just revealing more of it all, which is beautiful. I love that. And it's cool too, because it's just, I feel like we're all so interested in so many different things. Why does it just have to be one? Like, why does it just have to stay there? So, and I think all kinds of art, the more you explore different types of it, the more you realize how there is kind of you can find a connection in all of them, it's like, you can definitely feel that the more you, I think, kind of expand your horizons into all those different things. So yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I was just talking to one of my guests earlier this week about the last kind of area for me to really jump into is the opera, because I'd never been to one ever in my life.
Yeah.
Since I've been on this earth. And I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. So let me just kind of see what's coming up at the opera. And I'd look at a trailer and like, no, I'm not ready for that yet. Yeah. Especially if it was like, 3 hours, because some of those things are really long. And then eventually there was one that was going to fit, because I like a lot of scary things. I have that background, horror films and all that. I'm like, oh, okay, this is supposed to be like a ghost story in terms of what they're telling at this opera, so I should watch this trailer. And I watched it, and I was like, no, I don't think I can do this yet. And eventually I took the plunge, and I found what you were just saying. I found that it reminded me of more of like a musical. I was kind of surprised with the sets and the acting and everything else that happened, that here are these things that are actually definitely connected, and I just didn't realize it until I saw it.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's like you don't realize until you kind of go and open your mind to it. And yeah, that's amazing. I've never seen an opera myself, but just the technicality, I'm so fascinated by the technicality of their vocally what they do and how they train for it. Like it's wild. It's amazing. I'd love to go to one. Yeah, it's like a whole other world. It's cool.
It is, and I can recommend it now. I've been to some, and at least around here, it's going to reopen in September. They're going to be doing everything back in person. So,
awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to see everything. As everybody else out there is also excited to see everything come back. And whatever you did going to see live, once we get to actually see it again, that's going to be amazing. So again, like the fact that you got to do a live show last Friday is amazing to me.
Yeah, right. I know. It's weird. It's like, it's so exciting, but it's also so wild because like it had been like a year and a half just with nothing, so it's just like such a different mode. And then all of a sudden now it's like, all right, we're open again. It's like, whoa. And a bunch of other shows I got been booking up and getting it all going again. So it's like, wow, real life is finally coming back.
That's so exciting. I want to say there was another guest that I talked to that was from that area, and she was saying at the time, this was back like in February, that compared to up here, things were a little bit more loose down there in terms of being able to play. Is that kind of what you've been seeing too?
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely depended on like the area you're in or kind of where, what types of shows for sure. But there's definitely some lenient areas as opposed, I think, to some other states for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, like with that gal, I think she had just done something too, and I was like, "What?"
Right.
You got to play live in front of people or something, and I think it was some sort of socially distanced type of bar situation or something, but she still got to play.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. That's the thing they did a lot. Yeah, with like tables and distance and masks and stuff. Yeah, stuff like that. I remember seeing a bunch of that. But yeah, I was like, okay, at least it's something. Slowly but surely.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is kind of a weird situation that we have been stuck here for 15 months or so, and to come out of it, and it's kind of like you want to hopefully put a better version of yourself forward, moving forward, whatever you learned during this time. I think almost everybody learned something during this time.
Absolutely, that's so true. Yeah.
And make sure that once we get past the newness of being back to normal, that you don't just revert back to 2019.
Right.
I think that's going to actually be the trick, even for myself. I've talked about this live on other live streams about, so what did I agree in my head that is the most important to me during this time?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like we all did some soul searching during this time to be like, okay, like, what can we take from this? Or what I feel like we've all come out of this changed in some way for sure, and grown in certain ways individually, just having to be more alone, like on our own and go inward a lot more. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just exciting that we're getting at least the opportunity to make those steps and see what we've learned and can we apply it to moving forward. And speaking of moving forward with the songs that you put out so far, are we heading towards like an EP release then, or just going to be doing singles the entire time, or what's coming up here?
Yes, no, I'm planning to put together an EP. I'm planning to kind of aiming for that for the very end of summer or early fall. But yeah, so looking to get that project together and been working on that now as well. So I'm super excited. And really stay tuned. I'll definitely have more details on that as it comes. But yeah.
Okay. And do you have, I always ask every guest this, do you have any plans for any kind of physical edition of the EP? If it's a CD, a vinyl, anything that's tangible?
Yeah, so we're still working that out in terms of the tangible items that we will go for with this EP. But yeah, that's another thing that I will let you know. But as of right now, yeah, that's still kind of in the works currently.
Okay. As long as it's even being considered, I always think it's great.
Absolutely. And yes, that is definitely something we've talked about and are wanting to do. just kind of figuring out the logistics and which route of those we want to do. But yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I know that, sometimes depending on the style of music that some artists they're not looking at that yet, or they know it's expensive. Let's say to do vinyl, which it is, but it's just like at least that's not off the table. Because sometimes I've talked to people and they're like, "Yeah, I don't have any plans to do any of that kind of thing." Like, "Oh, that's too bad," because I'd like to buy something from you that I can actually have in my hand or put on my stereo or whatever, and not try to download or stream.
Right, absolutely. And I know, and that's the thing, is because so many people love that, and to love having it. There's something about having it in your hand too, and to keep and to put it out and to do all of that. That just like, I think definitely is important, and it's definitely something that I've been wanting to do. It's just figuring all of those things out, because it depends on, especially vinyl. Like I would love to press vinyl for my projects. That's just a matter of, it definitely can be expensive, but it's like, if it's done in the right way, it definitely is doable. So yeah, definitely something I'm looking towards for the future as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. And you've kind of talked about that you have shows coming up that you're gonna be able to play live, and then it sounds like you're gonna have some other studio things, and eventually a EP release, which includes artwork and photo shoots most likely, and all that other kind of fun stuff that comes with it. Is there anything specific that like, because Breathe just came out, but what's the next? Is there another single then that's going to be coming in the summer sometime, or is it too early to say any of that kind of thing?
There's something in the works, but it might be a little too early to say at this point currently. I don't want to say, because I don't want to for sure say that, give the confirmation now. If anything might change, just because we're just finishing it up. But yes, so there's definitely something that I'm working on right now that I would like for that to happen. But yeah, still a little early to say, but yeah, sorry. I know I can give you all the direct answers right now, but just, there's definitely lots of music coming.
Okay. And that actually kind of begs the question, do you consider yourself a prolific writer? Are you someone that writes all the time, or you kind of do it in spurts?
Yeah, well, I definitely think writing to me is the most important thing, especially lyrics, everything like that is probably my favorite part of the entire thing. And I've always written, even since I was really, really little, just been obsessed with writing. But yeah, I mean, it's something that it depends. I'm always writing something, even if it's these little ideas and things like that, little bits on my phone, going and recording this or going and writing a little melody and doing this here and there. I think that I'm always doing. I definitely go in spurts in terms of with the production, it definitely waxes and wanes with it. But yeah, I always try to stay writing. That to me, I think is kind of the most important aspect of what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do. So yeah, but there's definitely an ebb and flow of when those songs are completed, and when all of that, I kind of go through those different moments of processing, okay, feeling what I need to feel to then go write and finish it all. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay, well and everyone's different. Every artist is different. Sometimes I find people that are, they can't stop writing. Middle of the night they wake up kind of thing, and I understand that. And definitely, if you have something that you're focused on, then you're trying to get that thing the way you want it, and then you might have a little bit of a break, then you move on to the next thing. It just depends on inspiration strikes you sometimes.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. It always strikes at it's we can't control when it hits sometimes. It's all we can do is show up, and it kind of comes through. But it definitely, I feel that mine, I feel like I get the most inspiration that just comes through at night so often, or in the middle of the night or late at night, and I'll get these spurts of everything flowing in all of a sudden. I gotta write it all down. Even if I can't get it to my paper, it's I'll in my notes app just try to get it all out to save it, and then I'll go back and kind of build it up from there. But yeah, it's it can just hit at the weirdest time. Sometimes when you're not even actively trying to do it, those are the best times, or the best stuff is written from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for myself, many years ago, sitting on my couch watching some random TV show, and then something poured out of me, so I just want to grab my guitar, and then that song was written in 30 minutes, and it was just
right.
I don't know where it came from. I'm just so thankful that it came from somewhere.
Right? Yes, exactly. That's awesome. Yeah, it's sometimes it comes and it's okay, something inspired it, and it just flows, and you got to get it down. That's how for Fly Away, it was that happened so fluidly. Same with these other ones in different ways, but like Fly, it was almost like the whole thing. All of a sudden, it was like raining, and it was crazy. I had just all those lyrics just came. I wrote them all out, and as I was writing them, obviously it's about like butterfly and things like that. Like this butterfly flies up to my window, like after I had just written it all out, like in that setting, and I was like, what? It was crazy. It was so cool. But then I just like finished it in literally like 30 minutes, and so that was one of those just cool downloads. It felt like it just came through. But those are the great moments when you're writing. When all of a sudden it hits like that. It's so fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like, the faucet got turned on, the switch got turned on, whatever it was, and you just kind of you just ride that wave wherever it's going to go.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because if you make the mistake of stopping and then trying to come back to it, forget it. It's all is lost at that
point. Forget it. Yeah. If I don't record it, even like on my phone, like voice memo, like or anything, like gone. Like I have to be like, oh, we go to the bathroom quick and like record it real fast because otherwise it's gone.
I've totally been there. There's a ton of guitar riffs sitting on my phone just because I'm like, if I don't record this, I know I'm going to forget it, or I'll get close to it, but it won't be exactly what I had. So I'm like, So I think every creative person, especially musicians, they've got notebooks, phones, apps, all kinds of stuff full of things that they put down. And if you're humming some melody into your phone, just so that you don't forget it, you can always go back and reference it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I try to do. And yeah, I love writing my notebooks. I do try, like every morning I try to write 3 pages, just freehand. Sometimes it's just writing, sometimes it's songs, stuff like that, that I stay consistent with. But yeah, sometimes, you got to just go on the phone real quick, or if you're somewhere. So it's everywhere.
It is, and that's probably, I guess, one of the pluses of technology is that when you have that option, so you could be somewhere where normally if you didn't have a pad and paper or something with you, you'd be like, well, where's a napkin, or where's the toilet paper, or where's whatever. Right. Now you can grab your phone and just stick it in there. And you mentioned that you've written for most of your life, really. So are we talking like, did you write short stories or poetry as well, or what kind of thing?
It was interesting. I didn't like share anything until pretty later. I mean, when I was little, I used to write these little like books. Like literally, I would write all these little like short stories books, like so much when I was young. And from there, I'd always kind of write little bits here and there of poetry and things, but didn't fully like share my songwriting or like songs I had written until like a little bit later, like till summer high school and college. Really is when I started like sharing it, actually, and being like, okay, like I can actually, people are actually connecting to it, and kind of like learning, like finding that voice within it, being cool to share it more. And so that's kind of when, like with the writing songs and expressing them so much more, was during that time. But yeah, I feel like always I've been connected to writing, for sure.
Okay, that was always my first thing. Even before music, I was always writing from elementary school. And I remember at one point they sent me to some kind of like special writing workshop stuff from my school, and I was kind of like, I don't know, I just like writing. I don't know why. I just
it just makes sense. Yeah,
and here I am all these years later doing interviews and writing reviews and stuff. So I guess it's parlayed itself into something fruitful, I guess.
Right? Yeah, I know. It's so funny. I feel like sometimes we forget to or we don't see those connections. But I even recently was just thinking about that the other day, how like thinking about a similar question of this with writing. And I was like, I've really always like been into it. And like even in school, I'd always do all of the writing things. And like, but when I was younger, I recently just connected that of being like, wow, I guess I really did love writing even since I was little with all those books. And now I'm like writing all these songs and stories in a way. And it's like finding that connection is cool. It's like, okay, it came full circle now.
Yeah, and you're right. It's always cool when you can you kind of have that light bulb moment of like, oh, I didn't really realize that stuff I did when I was 6 or whatever, or 8. All these years later, I'm still doing it, just in a bigger way or a different way, but that core is still there.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. That's awesome. I think it's so cool when you find those things, because it's just like, it's like the expression has just grown into so much more.
Yeah, life can be so random and unexpected in some ways. I mean, you just never can predict it, even if it's something that you like to do and didn't realize that was going to take you down this path. And there are So
Yeah, absolutely. It's wild. It's crazy.
yeah, that's why, at least for me, it's always a case of like really never say never, because if someone said, "Do you think you'll ever, I don't know, do a cooking show 5 years from now?" I can't say no because I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I will. Exactly. And that's, I feel like, the best way to be, best way to think about it. It's just like being so open, because we don't know, and like there's so many possibilities that we could open ourselves to and just see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really the key, is just keeping yourself open to those things, and then letting them kind of come organically, which way they come, and then kind of feeling it out and seeing if you want to do it. And like I mentioned too, before we went live, that just doing these virtual interviews, my camera's in a different spot today. I never would have guessed in a million years that I would be doing them, let alone that I'd be opening for one of my favorite bands on a virtual tour. I mean, that was just like crazy to me.
That's awesome. That's
So-
so cool that happened. Yeah, it's like you never would have known during the pandemic that this could have blossomed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can add that, that this was not like a band that I was personally friends with or that I'd seen a lot of times, covering them. They came here twice, and it was in the same weekend, so it was really like once. I saw them 2 shows over one weekend, and that was in 2017.
Man, yeah, that is wild.
Yeah, so yeah, it's weird random things. That whole kind of 6 degrees of separation sometimes.
Yes.
I'm also a big believer, though, that the kind of positive energy that you put out to people in those first or second impressions, sometimes it parlays itself into something else down the road. And sure enough, that's what happened here.
Absolutely. I'm such a big believer in that and all of that, the law of attraction, and just exactly like what you put out, it'll come back, it comes back to you for sure. And that's so cool. That's something that I'm super passionate about too. I think it's just with that law of attraction, that positive energy that you're trying to put out, and within, that transformation to that, and then putting it out there, I think is so key, because then that inspires everyone else to do the same, and then it just keeps going,
Yep, it's just like a big old snowball, just keeps getting bigger. And especially like in this day and age with social media, and everyone has a platform, whether they deserve one or not. I mean, they can just instantly react to something you're doing, and they don't even know you, and that can be a really positive thing, or it can be a really negative thing. I've experienced both. I'm sure you probably have too.
Oh yeah.
And it becomes this kind of weird world, because like, if you took that time that you just spent to, like, say, write a comment on social media about somebody or something, and instead of it being negative, you could have taken that time and energy to make something positive somewhere, and that would be so much better. But instead, I can almost guarantee you did it there, you did it here, and here with a bunch of other ones. Like,
yeah,
if you could just kind of step out of yourself for a second, have a little bit of empathy, and then realize, this isn't really healthy for anybody, including yourself.
Like, this is helping no one. Exactly. It's like that type of energy, it gets stuck. No one's being helped by that, and I think so much of that too is projected from feeling that way within, and people just project that onto, wanting to take it out on all kinds of other things. And that's why too, I think it's so important, like that inner going inwards and kind of reflecting in those ways, and taking time to really like find that place of self-love, or just even taking care of your mental health. Those things are so important, because that just like flows out into everything that you do. And yeah, I think that's just so crucial.
I totally agree. And here we are in Mental Health Awareness Month. And so, trying to find balance in what you do, and trying to understand, like, where your happy place is, or when you need to take a break from things, and not doing it because you feel obligated to do it, but that you feel that you need to do something for yourself.
Right. Yes.
Is okay. And it's been interesting having so many of these conversations in the last, maybe 5 years, when it's really become much more of an open topic, which has been really helpful for a lot of people.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, mental health is something I'm super passionate about, and that means a lot to me. I studied that in school, and also I've had my own journey with that too. And I just think it's just so important into everything that we do. And yeah, actually, with this month being Mental Health Month, I'm actually about to just do a special little, just a little small thing for people with my email list. I kind of created these special, you know, I mentioned to you how writing is such a big thing for me, even free form writing in the mornings, you know, just stream of consciousness, that I created journal prompts, my music and my songs, just for people to kind of go inward and take some time with, or to write with if they wanted. So yeah, so I'll be dropping that really soon too, just as a fun thing for Mental Health Month. And yeah, I just think that's also important. And I'm so happy now that the discussion is so much more open, you know, and because it's just so crucial.
Yeah, that's great that you're doing that for everybody that signs up for your email list and gives them an opportunity to interact that way. And yeah, it's been people that have watched my interviews know that I had my own issues with mental health over the years, and so I'm not immune from that whatsoever. So someone starts talking about it, I can totally empathize with them of having been in a dark place at one point in my life and how I got out of it, and then that you're always kind of aware of it because you carry it with you.
Yeah.
I wish you could just put it into a trash can and be done with it completely. Yeah. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But the more the people, and the more the people get a chance to hear about that, who maybe are being silent because they feel like they're going to be judged, or they're already being judged by it, so they don't want to say anything more about it. And they start hearing more and more people say things that they can relate to. It's like, you know what? Yeah, you're not alone in that whatsoever. And it can come from different places, different people, different walks of life.
Yeah.
No one's really immune to it. You know, some obviously have maybe had better luck than others, but it's everyone's had a crap day. Everyone's had one.
Yes, absolutely. And I so feel you. You know, I've had my own journey with that as well, with mental health. And you know, I think that's the power of what you were saying of realizing the more people speak about it and everything, you know, is that realize that you're not alone in that, and that it's so, we all feel those things in our own ways, and like we're all actually so much more connected than we think in that. And that's what I think honestly is like my favorite part about music, or I think really the true, like one of the truest powers of music is that it can make that expression of that, you know, like what we go through, anyone go through, is like, and then expressing it through a song, like that can help so many people feel like, okay, like they've been through it too, like I feel understood, like I feel heard, and like connect all these people. You know, I think that's the power that music can hold, is just that reminder that like you aren't ever really alone, and like there's always some song for how you're feeling, you know, and like other people who connect to the song, and then it just, yeah, it's just cool.
Yeah, that's very well said, and that's where I think all of it comes together when you're in the same room watching that song being performed with
exactly
like-minded people that are also resonating with what's going on, and that's when everything just clicks into place.
Yes, absolutely. Those are some of my favorite moments I've had, where like on stage or in a crowd, and there's certain lines being sung and the whole crowd is singing, you know, some powerful lines like that, and you can tell everyone there's feeling it, you know, but they all have like a million different reasons, but they're all singing the same lines. Like that's so cool. Like that's, I feel like, what it's all about.
Yep, I totally agree. I absolutely agree. When you hit that moment, there's nothing better, really.
Yeah, literally nothing.
Well, Julia, thank you so much for taking the time today, and I'd love getting a chance to get to know your music better and get to know you better. And I would love to be able to do a follow-up whenever you feel like it's like the right time, you got something new that you want to promote, or even if it's just an update about how your live shows are going over the summer, which is awesome to be able to say.
Thank you. Yes, right, I know.
But yeah, I love doing follow-ups and part 2s, part 3s, and part 4s with my guests and that kind of thing. And yeah, I would love to do one with you when the time is right. And again, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Yes, absolutely. I would love that. I would definitely love to reconnect and chat again. This has been so much fun, and I just really appreciated this conversation. So thank you so much for having me, and for taking your time to have me on here, and to talk about all this music stuff. I just really appreciate it, and it's been so great. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. And again, thank you for taking the time. And I look forward to getting a chance to talk to you sooner than later then.
Yes, absolutely. It sounds great.
Okay. Have a good, I guess it's evening down there now. Yeah, I guess it's evening.
Yeah, early evening. Yeah.
Have a good evening, good Thursday evening, and then stay safe as well.
All right. Thank you so much. You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.